in my amazing, peaceful surroundings, may I just have a moment to say, somebody gave me a cup, those. And I get really angry about pharmaceutical companies preying on the sympathy of the public to get more money, which goes to the pharmaceutical company, not to people, and certainly not to finding cures or supporting remedies that have cured. They'll tell you diet doesn't matter. Okay, this is what the doctors in Mexico told me. Is they said Western doctors in the U.S. are trained in pharmacology only, and not only are medical schools funded by the big pharma, but that's what's taught there. Very little nutrition, very little. You know what? Let's skip all that. That's why my feelings are like that. And they sought to shut down the borders so that we couldn't go over there and get medicine. And herbs that are used to cure cancer in this place over in Mexico are illegal to possess in the United States. I think just recently they're trying to crack down on sassafras. Sassafras grows on a tree. That is greed, and greed is at the root of so many of our collective health ills. I'm talking about the planet, greed, and our bodies, greed. Only greed makes you put a toxic substance on a shelf and market it to children. Or in good conscience, let adults eat it. We've learned to ignore those warnings. Other countries there's things that are illegal in other countries, like certain dyes. We shouldn't have dyes in us. But at one time they put MSG in baby food. MSG is a super salt, and it stimulates the brain cells until they die. Overstimulates them. Fluoride in our toothpaste calcifies the pineal gland. That's the area that lights up when we're using telepathy or going into meditation. So, yeah, if you've got some fluoride toothpaste, put it in your first aid kit and put a piece of tape on it that says insect stings or bites, insect bites. You get a mosquito bite, put that mint toothpaste. Yes, it's a little bit of fluoride, but it's not like swallowing it. We're swallowing it. What the hell? And on it says, keep out of reach of children, because it's poisonous. You can call poison control if your child eats a tube of toothpaste. What are we doing? Putting something in our mouth every day we know is poisonous. And on the back, it will recommend that you put a pea-size amount, at least they used to, I haven't seen them in a while, that you put a pea-size amount on your toothbrush. But all the commercials show them going, how many people do you know that put this big line of toothpaste on there? Foaming up. You're swallowing it and you're soaking it under your tongue, so it's going immediately into your bloodstream. You know how they give a medicine sublingually? Very sensitive area to be putting poison. Oh my gosh. All right, what were we talking about? Big Pharma. Yeah, profiting from cancer. It is criminal that diabetics can't get insulin. That is criminal. This is a very controllable disease. I mean, it's hard, but it can be done. And the people who have poor insurance get a poor quality. You have to, if you have really good insurance, you get a real high quality, real stable insulin. Yeah, that's really bad. Every person who has diabetes needs to have a monitor that's it's just a little tiny thing that goes inside your skin, and it's permanent and it's pretty safe. And yes, you're pricking your skin. However, if you do not have a constant monitor, you're pricking your finger 10 times a day. Some people can't control their blood sugar with that. And people who know how to do it, well, I know one guy who knows how to do it pretty well. Nobody else knows it. He says that he went to a bunch of doctors, and doctors would tell him things that were blatantly wrong. People know, why aren't doctors learning about diabetes in their medical schools, except what drug to give them? You see the problem. All right, so I'm here about solutions, though. Every person, healthcare should be free. If you can't manage that, let's make it where insurance companies must provide the high quality to all their patients. And also, it needs to be free. Insulin needs to be free. And everybody who's got diabetes wears that monitor. Type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, I think they need to work on their diet before it gets out of control. But, that information's not out there. Doctors will see people becoming pre-diabetic, but they don't tell them until it's time to prescribe something. Oh, you don't want me on this soapbox. At the clinic I was in Mexico, there was a woman who told her mother had cancer, and she told the mother's doctor. She said, "We're going to try some clinics in Mexico. What do you think about those?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a bunch of quacks. Don't go down there." And she took her mom down there, and her mom survived. And in fact, she was down there with her mom during one of the follow-ups, and her doctor was in the waiting room. Now, these, I'm sure, were not actors paid to entertain me. The one time I went down there and paid like $200 to get well. But she sees her doctor, her mom's doctor, in the waiting room. She goes, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Oh, I got this kind of cancer." She goes, "You forbade me from coming down here. How dare you, deny my mother the ability to be well, deny any of us the ability to be well when you come down here." He's like, if I told everybody that, I'd be out of business. Greed is at the heart of all of our troubles, really. The doctors make big money on chemo. There was a girl that was in this room as well, and her mom said she had an inoperable brain tumor. That's what happened to the little girl. And the girl went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "It's inoperable. You will die. You probably have like a year, something like that. But if we give you some chemo, we can, chemo or radiation, can't remember which one, we can extend your life." I'm pretty sure it was chemo. And the little girl had seen a classmate suffer with chemo and through cancer. And she said, "Mom, no. They're not saying it'll save me. They're just saying it'll make it last longer. But if it's awful, I don't want it to be longer." And so, so the mother did all kinds of research into alternatives. And there was some research about a mineral called cesium that if you, I think, drink it, it can shrink brain tumors sometimes. And they were doing them in different countries. They were doing it down in Mexico. And so after she researched it, she asked the doctor, her daughter's doctor, she said, "What do you think about cesium?" And the doctor said, "There's no such thing." And so she said, "Well, give us a month to decide." And so they left, and they went down to this clinic, and they did some cesium. I think the girl was drinking it. I think I saw her also on the chelation machine as well, but I can't remember. I think so, though. All right. So they went to Mexico. She did the cesium. She came back in 30 days. The doctor takes a new MRI. He looks at the MRI. He compares it to the old MRI, and he says, "I told you not to go to Mexico." And she said, "You didn't tell me not to go to Mexico. You told me it didn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, how do you know I went to Mexico?" And he was angry, and she said, "We want a second opinion." So she took her to another doctor, and the doctor said, "Whatever you're doing, it's working." Yeah. There was a guy beside me who said, Oh, I've heard about that because this is my first time there, and really, I think they've paid actors, and I'm like, they can't afford these American actors at 150 or $200. And so the guy beside me, but everybody had miracle stories, you know. The guy beside me said, "Oh, I heard about CCM," and he said, "I saw a television, a documentary, a medical documentary, where they were uh, irradiating it." And surgically implanting it into a tumor, and sometimes it would make the tumor shrink. And we said, "You have to put it in it?" And we said, "Did she have to put it?" No, she just drank it, got it in her bloodstream. And we're all like, "Why would they do that?" And it's like, money, because you make money every time you use radiation. The doctors do, and they make money every time they do surgery. And you really don't want to get in there. If there's another way, you don't want to get in there and cut it open. I had melanoma. I had skin cancer, and then I had a tumor on my spine, and I had a spot on my lung. So I went to this place where I ate only raw vegan. It was a juice fast. It was called Optimum Health Institute, and I ate only wheatgrass, Rejuvelac, cucumber juice, water. That was it. And within less than a week, the tumor shrank. No, it disappeared. It was looked like an ugly mole. And within a couple of days, it went down to looking like a sunspot, a freckle kind of deal, a big freckle. And then it disappeared entirely, eating raw vegan. So I knew that it could be done. But then I went to this place. I was teaching yoga at a place at a hot springs that was heavily fluoridated, naturally heavily fluoridated. But it also had chlorine in it. And not only did that one cancer tumor come back, but a second one came back. So I went down to this clinic in Mexico that I'd first gone to, and they put a black salve, just a tiny little dot. It's a salve that eats indiscriminately. So I had these two volcanoes, and he's like, "You got some pain meds? Because you're going to need some pain meds." Um, so it's like this, it's eating, burning away your skin. So these two big volcanoes, you had to chill the hell out for those days. And once it stopped, there was a charred piece in the middle, like a black charred nickel, like a volcano with this nickel at the bottom. And they said, when that charred piece falls out, come immediately back to the clinic. And then I went back to the clinic, and they used a yellow salve down deep in this crater. And within days, you could see holes running down like root systems into my chest. And the thing is Western medicine, right here on your ribs, Western medicine could have never cut that off. I've seen them have a melanoma on the nose, and they take almost the entire nose. A shoulder, I saw a guy who had some melanoma on his shoulder. They took the entire shoulder. I mean, it barely works. His whole arm is skinny. So, yeah. So the yellow sap that they put in ate only cancer cells. But I want to tell you this, that it was done with food. And I could have gone back on that. But the next time I had another one come up on my shoulder, what I said was, I am not going through that again, because afterwards, our energy field matters. And when you have a trauma to your body, it damages the energy field. And so I felt this big vacuum right through here. And to me, it looks like this. The body, the cells in the body don't know the difference between surgery and us being in a knife fight in an alley. I mean, it really doesn't. And so when you've had trauma to your body, so this was like a knife fight in the alley to me. It took a while to heal that. It was a barometer after that. They told me not to eat any moldy stuff, no cheeses or anything, like blue cheese dressing, no cheeses. Actually, no mushrooms, no soft mushrooms, because they are a fungus, so stay away from fungus moles. And one time I just had to have some blue cheese dressing. That sounded really good on this salad. And so I had some, and immediately it started tingling around there. I went on 3 different cancer diets plus my own. And they all said stay away from vinegar. I had an aversion to it, but all of them said stay away from vinegar. And if I ate anything with vinegar in it, it would start tingling right here. So now that's my little monitoring system. Yeah, but the next time I had something up here, I said, I don't want to put that trauma on my body, so I need to do it with food, and I don't want to pay $1,200 a week to go to Optimum Health Institute, or even 6 or 7, you know, when you go during their special. It's like, I know what we ate and stuff there. So I actually went up into the forest and ate only what grew so berries, tart berries, but lots of greens, some roots. I did go to the farmer's market and get some roots there. And so doing that for like 2-3 months, and it disappeared. Yeah. One time, I struggle with raw veganism cures the body. It does. And that is not the same as anti-meat eaters. Raw veganism, where you're actually eating the vegetables and eating them raw and whole, it cures so many things. But I was sitting in meditation. You know, my ancestors would eat meat occasionally. Like in the winter, they hunted, and in the summer they fished. But it was infrequent things. Mostly nuts. We hiked a long way to get walnuts. Yeah, and gardens. We did our own gardens. We wild harvested the wild berries and our herbs. Yeah. But there have been times people with heart conditions I've seen, like a red meat like buffalo or liver, assist them. I do not believe that we should be consuming meat on a daily basis. I do not believe we should be eating meat, that it is not in our best interest. I believe it is not in our best interest to be eating meat that are in feedlots in the most horrendous conditions and pumped full of chemicals or drugs. That is not good for us. That is not good for us. But I've seen times and places when I was really sick, I meditated and said, this was the cancer coming back, and I meditated and said, what do I need to eat? And what I saw was, eat the rabbit. At the time, I'd been eating meat in here, because cancer clinics will pressure you to eat meat sometimes. But what you really need is dark leafy green vegetables. Chlorella helps a lot, but you know, sometimes you just get to a point where you just can't move, and that seems to help you. I haven't pinned down what it is, if it's the iron, if it's the B vitamins. I mean, I do nutritional yeast. All right, but I digress. I ate these wild foods, but when I asked for help, what I was told was to eat the rabbit. So I laid down with my bow and arrow, and I left out treats, and I observed for some time, knew who was the female, who was the mom, who was the kids, who they had too many of. And there was a young buck that was annoying to all his family members. And cute little guy. That's terrible. That's terrible. He was annoying. He annoyed me. I'm like, why are you stealing that from them? Why not get your own? You know, personalities even in the animal kingdom. And so I decided he's the one. He's the one that's got to go. And but because I was making him trust me by leaving him food so that he would be close, so that I would get a clean shot, I got to know him too well, and I couldn't kill him. I started writing poetry to him while I'm laying out there. All right, so I went back to meditation and said, what if I can't eat the rabbit? And what I was given was, then eat what the rabbit eats, which was an answer all along, but maybe it was an answer I wasn't willing to hear just yet. You know, I needed that reminder. All right, good talking to you. I don't even know if we're still recording. Have a good morning.